Well, that was predictable. Slicks and snow, I guess, do not mix. Well, after a long day at the cubicle farm and a trip to the gym to burn off some of those Christmas cookies, we're finally back in the shop. Tonight we finally got the wheel studs we've been waiting for. So these Moser axles did not come with wheel studs, and I could not find any information when I ordered them about what size knurl these wheel studs were. So when you measure them, they come out as 639, about 640, 0.640. So I was able to find a set of Mr. Gasket wheel studs. So we're going to try and press these in. One nice thing, I know I mentioned Dr. Diff in the last video, or one of the previous videos. I ordered axles for Betty White, and when you order axles from Dr. Diff, not only do they include the bearings, they also include wheel studs and everything. They also come with like a finish on them, like a nickel coating or some kind of, I don't know, some kind of nickel coating or some sort of fancy coating on them to keep them from rusting, which the Moser axles don't have any kind of coating. They don't come with any bearings, they don't come with any wheel studs, they don't come with any kind of information about what wheel studs to order. You have to figure out, I'm sure you can call customer support, but I don't know about everybody else, but I hate picking up the phone and calling customer support. That's like my absolute last resort. I worked in a call center for 10 years. The last thing I want to do is spend more time on the telephone calling somebody. So list what size studs we should order when we buy axles, or just include it for another $50. The ones from Dr. Diff cost the exact same. Actually, they were cheaper, and it comes with all the hardware. Now, I don't know, I guess we'll figure out. I'm not a metallurgical engineer, but I guess through the course of racing the two cars, we'll figure out if the Dr. Diff axles are just as strong as the Moser axles. Hopefully they are. They should be. They're supposed to be, so we will find out. But we're going to go ahead and press in the wheel studs, and we can move on to the next step. Well, we have a small problem. I got everything mocked up with our Magnum wheels, the new axles, new brakes, and how's it going with clearance on the wheel wells? These are 28 by 9 Mickey Thompson slicks on, I think it's a 15 by 9 rim. And they just are a little bit too close right there. Looks like I can get a finger in the front, so that'll probably be okay. It is sitting on the jack, so it's not. So the weight of the car is already on the rear end. It's not. The rear end's not unloaded. So you can see here, we just don't have any clearance at all, pretty much. The way the wheel well is made on this 68 Dart. So there's a couple different things we can do here. We can slice it. We can slice it like here. We can slice it like here and here, and then like roll it up, which is pretty common. Or we could just take a flap wheel and kind of grind it out a little bit, make a little indentation right here. And I think that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Definitely not going to work as it stands. So I wanted to mock everything up. I don't have the brake. I don't have all the brake pads and stuff in there yet, but I got all the hard parts in there. Just wanted to see before I started putting stuff together if it was going to work, and it will not. But big picture, they do look pretty awesome though, you gotta admit. Those would be a big improvement. So this car has it has the Mopar super stock leaf springs on it right now. Let's see, I put these on. Well, I was planning on keeping it more of a street car, but if we're going to make it more of a race car, we'll probably be upgrading to cow tracks. All right, let's blow it back apart and start grinding. All right, I got a mark to just kind of make a little whoop-de-doo in there. So we just got a flap disc on here, so it's not going to be super aggressive. I don't want to go crazy. So let's see if we can make some sparks. Hopefully this goes okay. So flap disc just is not quite aggressive enough. It's going to take me 14 years if I stick with that. So we're going to go ahead and switch to a little bit more aggressive full-scale grinding wheel here. I know, it's really weird. It smells like burnt rubber out here now. Wonder why that would be. Anyway, we did make a little bit of progress. We got a little bit of contour going on here. It's not too bad, but I think this will get it out a lot faster, and then we'll finish it off with the 40 grit flap, 36 grit flap disc, and that should make it make quick work of this. The hardest part is just getting your arm in there. It's not the most comfortable position. I think we're close. I think the hardest part here is just holding my fat head up while I try to grind. That made a nice big mess, but I think that'll work. Take a look. So you can see, now we got it. Before it was all ratchet. Now we got her nice and contoured, and then right there's where the tire, where that middle mark is right there. That's where the tire trimmed the closest, so I think we clearanced it at least 1/4 inch. So we'll go ahead and hit this with probably some PLR 15 on a brush, or maybe just black Rust-Oleum on a brush, whatever I have laying around, just to make sure it doesn't rust anymore. And let's see if our well, first we got to see if we have clearance. All right, we got the wheels back on. I got everything mocked back up, and now look, I can get my whole fat finger in there now. I don't have air in the tires, but I can tell now that you can see now we've got like 1 inch of clearance. I probably want this aired up, it might be like 1/2 inch, but you can see we got plenty of room now. So didn't really take that much out of the fender, but we took just enough. So that should be perfect. Didn't want to cut her up any more than I have to. Pro tip, always put a little dab of anti-seize on these long wheel studs like this. Number one, it keeps them from rusting on the end and looking all rusty and crusty. But more importantly, when you're running these down, it keeps them from boogering up and then stripping out your threads or getting super hot. I've learned that the hard way a couple times. So yeah, just a little dab of anti-seize on there, and then I'll keep these on these long wheel studs, keep them running down there nice and easy, smooth. I think I hear Kendic Customs calling. Dave, do you need help? I think this is how they build cars too. Definitely. Definitely. It's a joke, people. I don't need to be roasted. Well, actually, you can roast me. I don't really care. You'll notice a theme here. Everything we do just about happens 3 times. So I think we'll mock this up one more time, and then that might be about it for tonight, because I did work all day at the cubicle farm, so I am a little tired. What color should, you see the beadlock covers are red right now. I don't really want to keep them red. What color should I paint them? Should I just polish them like I did the other side? Should I paint them blue? Should I paint them gold? What should I do with these beadlock rings? I don't know. Bebop me in the comments and let me know what I should do with these. This is a factory A-body rear end. It has not been narrowed or anything. You can see we don't really have a lot of room to move the tire inboard. So the wheel is actually like a perfect fit for this car. So I think that's about as good as we're going to get with a 28x9 slick. We have about a 1/4 inch, about a pinky finger, which is what I have exactly on the other side too. There's a pinky finger. So this is about as good as it gets as far as a 68 dart and a 28x9 tire without narrowing the rear end. So we may have to look into that if we're going to go any bigger, but I think these tires will work okay. Oh yeah, that's going to look so cool. So much cooler. It's going to sit up. I think I'm going to want to lower that rear end eventually. It does need to tuck down a little bit more, I would say. Those tires do need to tuck a little bit more. I don't like the way that they sit up so high. But I think that's just, it is what it is. Alright, I think that's it for now. After some struggle, we got the old rear brake line off. You can see it was pretty much mint. A little bit of dry rot on there. Focus. Yeah, a little bit of dry rot. 54 years she was due to be replaced. So after a little bit of struggle and fire, we got that out of there. So we're gonna go ahead and knock our old shocks out next. These are also probably the factory shocks, I would bet. We got our money's worth, that's for sure. There we go. And, oh, yeah, she's mint. The shock. These might be worse than the front ones. Yeah, definitely. Those were definitely not shocking anymore. So, QA1 adjustables should definitely improve the situation. It's the next morning, and we're back on the dart. This morning, we got new addition, so we actually have some microphones today, so hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. I noticed in our first videos that my voice doesn't carry the best, so hopefully with the microphones you'll be able to hear me a little bit better. Anyway, this morning I had an epiphany overnight. My brain turned on a little bit better, and instead of, although clearancing the fender well did work out okay, I went ahead and ordered a fender roller tool last night off Amazon. So
we will go ahead and try and roll this lip up a little bit as well. We do have clearance, but I think if we can roll the lip, I didn't want to just be a barbarian and just hammer it all the way. So I went ahead and ordered the little tool so that we can roll it real neatly. So that'll also be a nice little test to see how the Amazon tool works. I didn't want to spend $150 for a tool. I'm probably going to use 1 or 2 times, but the Amazon one was on sale for $45, so why not try that? So we'll give that a shot. But today we've blown everything back apart, and we got our axle seals. I already got those installed this morning, and we're just cleaning everything up and getting ready to put everything back together for hopefully the last time. We got new brake lines. We got some new brake lines to install. We got just everything. Got to figure out how to get the drum brakes in their final configuration and button this all up. So here we go. The new brake lines I ordered did not fit, so I had to go back to the ones that I made originally. So we'll have to make our annual pilgrimage up to Summit Racing to return all the parts that I've stockpiled that did not fit. I'm just going to use RTV on everything. Didn't need that much gear lube anyway. We got axle seals. We are just going to go RTV on RTV. We'll make it very difficult to pull apart if we ever need to pull this out. But it will probably not leak. It's already got seals in there. Honestly, black RTV, you just can't go wrong with it. That stuff generally never leaks when you put it together with black RTV. Unless it's about the only gaskets I actually use are the reusable oil pan and transmission pan. I mean, head gaskets, obviously, but the important part when you're using just RTV is to make sure everything is clean so that the RTV has something to bond to. If it's dirty, obviously it won't stick, and then it will leak. But as long as everything's clean and fairly flat, which all this seems to be pretty flat and clean. I cleaned everything with brake cleaner and stuff, so it shouldn't have any trouble. The biggest complaint will be pulling it back apart to service it, which hopefully we're not pulling it back apart anytime soon, so it won't really be a concern. If I was going to do this all over again, I would not have gone with drum brakes again, because by the time I bought backing plates and drums and all the hardware, I'm about halfway to a set of the strange discs, and then I had to get a proportioning valve because this had drums all the way around. So if you factor that in too, I could have just gone, because I wouldn't have needed a proportioning valve if I would have left, if I would have put discs all the way around it, because instead of all drums, it would have had all discs, and then I wouldn't have needed a proportioning valve. So I kind of, hindsight is 2020 again. I should have just bought the strange kit for the rear, gone that way. But didn't think about it until it was too far down the road. It just kept escalating. Back into the dark, and we got our QA1 shocks installed on one side. Ready to do the other side. We got the little bushings pushed in. We got a little grease shoved in them, and apparently I didn't realize how tall, how long Mopar factory shocks are, but those are pretty long shocks. Apparently, factory Mopar shocks are on par with like monster trucks or something. It has to be like 12 inches of travel. So anyway, for starting out, we'll usually just take them like, I don't know, maybe 3 clicks from full soft. Really good starting point. Got these all folded up, so we're going to go ahead and move over to the other side. Stick the nuts on. Good to go. Alright, we've got new shocks. Got new back brakes. It's turned out, we're happy with the progress we made this weekend. Got the QA1 shocks in, we got the rear end all together. The rear tires fit barely. One thing I'm waiting on is that one brake line. Or I don't have the one brake line that connects to the stainless piece of that. Once that comes in, then we can start bleeding the brakes. Alright, so we're under the dash. Made this wrench once before for some other projects. You can see I kind of grinded down a 3/4 inch wrench and added a little bit of a bend to it, which makes it a little bit easier to get into these A-body brake areas, which don't have a ton of room. Pretty compact here, but we'll go ahead and see if we can fight this off. Shouldn't be too bad with this wrench. To see what the weight difference is between these two, because this is a OG cast iron one. The new one is aluminum, so it's got to be a couple pound difference. So, all right, right out. You can see this is how the Mopar assembly works, and there's a little bushing that holds this rod into the back of the master cylinder. Let me tell you, boy, you want to make sure that that is in there, because if this rod ever pops out of there, you will lose your brakes. And I've seen so many Mopar race cars, well, race cars in general, crashed because this little rod pops out the back of the master cylinder here. And when the car launches off the starting line, this pulls back, falls to the floor. They get to the finish line, they go for their brake pedal, and no brakes. It's an absolute disaster. I've seen so many beautiful race cars just destroyed because of that. I know some folks, when they build race cars, they'll put actually a little thing to hold this so that it can't, if it does come out, at least it can't fall. I've seen people almost glue these in there just to make sure that they don't fall out. But as long as you put the factory adapter back in there, they seem to hold in there pretty good. All right, so let's go over to the workbench and we will get everything swapped over. You can see the difference in the two master cylinders. This one's actually steel and heavy. This one is aluminum and light. I tried to weigh them, but they're doesn't quite weigh enough to trip the bathroom scale. So we'll try and weigh it when I go in the house and maybe use our food scale that we have in the house. Meanwhile, we can go ahead and swap the rod over. One thing kind of annoying about this factory one is it takes a 1/2 inch wrench to check the fluid on it. Actually, the cover actually bolts down to it. Kind of annoying, I guess. Yeah, one thing you have to be careful of, as you can see, it's actually bolts down the factory master cylinder. So the new master cylinder did not come with those new grommets, so it's already in there. So after a long week at the cubicle farm and a week of waiting on parts, we're back. So I didn't like the way the master cylinder from Rock Auto, I didn't like the way the brake push rod, the bore on the master cylinder just didn't quite fit quite right. And also, where the brake lines attach was a smaller fitting. So when I went to back on Dr. Diff, they actually sell basically the same master cylinder, but it has the same size brake line fittings as your factory one on the Dodge Dart, and then it also has, they actually hone the bore so that your push rod will fit right in, nice and snug. Because you do not want that push rod to pop out of there, because if you do, you're crashing the car 100%. So for an extra, it's actually the same price from Dr. Diff as it was from the parts store. It might have been like $12 more, but I think it was $50 from Dr. Diff. I have the receipt. It was $50 from Dr. Diff for the master cylinder, and they also offer the adapters, but they don't have the cool adapters that are scalloped. And then they also offer the push rod that's adjustable, so that you can adjust the height of your pedal, so that after you install, because odds are the master cylinder is going to change the height of your brake pedal, and you don't want your brake pedal being all the way up here when you're trying to stop. And so this way you can just kind of, you have a little bit of adjustability there to kind of get it exactly where it's most comfortable for you, especially because we are going to race this car, so you want your brake pedal being in the most comfortable position for you. So it's only $30 for the push rod and $50 for the master cylinder, and it saves you from having to change the fittings, and it definitely makes it a lot safer, because you know that's not going to pull out. I've already put the push rod in there. It fits super tight. I had to use a little bit of glass cleaner. I just used a little bit of spray glass cleaner in there to lube it up, and then pressed it in, and now it should be in there for forever. So we'll go ahead and bench bleed this on the bench here. I have these handy little plastic fittings that go in there from old. These are from, they don't come with these anymore, but back in the day when you would buy master cylinders, they came with these, and I saved them. The new ones don't come with these. These make bench bleeding the master cylinder so much easier. So I did spend like an hour looking for what I did with these. I'm sure everybody else has that. I don't know if anybody else has the same problem. I spent at least an hour looking for what I did with these, but I knew that I had them, so I didn't give up, and I did find them, and with total randomness that had nothing to do with brakes, but I did find them. So we'll bench bleed the brakes, and we'll get the master cylinder installed, and we'll be on to bigger and better things. Well, after an infinite amount of work, the tires still don't fit. My buddy Jeff from Gen 2 Garage told me this wouldn't work, but I was trying to avoid butchery, so I tried the wheel lip roller, but this will not work on a Dodge Dart, not even close, because as you'll see, this is not round, it's square, and the tool is not nearly long enough. So the tool comes like up in here, even on the slowest setting. So there's no way to even get close with the tool. So that was just a big waste of money, but that's fine. So what we did was took Jeff's advice. Should always do, because he's a wise man. And just went ahead and just pie cut the fender. So now we'll go ahead and work on hammering and dollying the wheel lip here. It's pretty straightforward. You want to use the flat side though. You don't want to use the round side of your hammer. That way it doesn't leave big dents. At least it does kind of make it at least flat, because you're looking for a flat surface. So it's going to take a little bit of effort here. So, and you have to pie cut it first, because you can't just, if it's not cut,
there's no relief. There's no way for the metal to stretch. I'm also going to heat it up with a torch. Everything's better with fire. That's most things in life are better with fire or lube. So, all right, so we use fire for this one. I'm not going to make it glowing red. We don't want to burn the paint off. Still hot. It's hotter than Selena Gomez. Take a look. That rolls it over pretty much all the way. Pretty quickly, too. Clean this up a little bit with a file. I did everything I could to avoid butchery here, but fortunately, it's not possible. So if we ever decide to paint this car, of course we could just weld these slices back together, and then I'll use a little bit of filler over this. It really didn't dent the panel on the outside. I don't feel it's got a couple waves in it now. Not too bad. So, yeah, of course I lost my file. It's just right here. Garage gremlins must have taken it. Found it. All right. So let's see if we can finish this off with some file work. Here we go. Well, after more hours than I'd like to admit, we finally got the dart ready to go on the ground. So we're going to get it off the jack stands here. We've got the brakes bled, we got all the brake lines replaced. Everything should be as good as new. We can't really take it for a test drive yet. We still need to do the proportioning valve, and it looks like it's going to be no fun to do. So I'm going to move it over to the lift to get to the proportioning valve, but it should be fun to just drive around the yard to move it over there. But it's kind of a big moment. We're going to put it on the ground and see how it looks on the new wheels. Well, if you stuck with us this long, we feel like you deserve more than just ending the video off here. It's snowing outside, so driving it out on the road on slicks and front runners would probably be totally irresponsible. But driving the car around our yard in the snow is only slightly irresponsible. And we can only tear up our own stuff that way. So we're going to do that for you guys. There's probably 100% chance that we're going to get stuck and we'll have to pull it out with one of the four-wheel drives, but that's fine because we're in it for the biscuits. And we are going to do the responsible thing and at least put a high side limiter in it in case it gets a little too rowdy. But we're going to go outside and at least try and have some fun on this cold and yucky day. Oh no, that did not work very good. If you have stayed with us this long, you've probably noticed this episode was full of fail. It had so much fail, I had to make a list. It had all the fail. Our brake lines, they didn't fit. Our master cylinder, it didn't really fit. Our wheel tub roller, total waste of money. The weather, it's miserable. Burnouts, it's going to have to wait for a better day. Wheel tubs, they're mostly butchered. The yard, it's officially turfed. So what do you do when everything fails? You grab your favorite cold snack. We did have a little bit of wind though. The brakes, it does have brakes. The wheels and tires, they fit. I did at least a 180 in the yard, and I don't think the tires rubbed. The car, it runs and drives, so you can't beat that. It was 28 degrees outside, and that thing started right up with a single plane manifold. You can't beat that. I do want to give a couple shouts out. Now, we're not sponsored by anybody other than my job and her job at the Cubicle Factory, but we did get some good products. We did buy some good products from some good companies. Dr. Diff, I don't think half of this, I think we use more product from them than anybody. O'Reilly's, they were the only ones that wanted to sell us .5 brake fluid. Go figure. All the other parts stores in town wanted to get into a fight with her about .5 brake fluid. Just sell it to her. It's not that big of a deal. Strange, they made the brake kit that bolted right up other than missing one bolt. It was perfect. Shout out to Rural King because they had the one bolt that was missing. We did buy a grade 8 bolt. Summit Racing. Most of the parts came from Summit Racing and they were shipped right away. Mr. Gasket was the only company I could find that sold the wheel studs that would fit our Moser axles. Jegs, we did buy some parts from Jegs. RTV, I mean, how else would you get the ring and pinion in without RTV? How else would you seal the axles without RTV? You're not actually going to use gaskets. Come on now. And Milwaukee, because if it wasn't for Milwaukee, we'd probably still be out there running lug nuts down on those wheels, let's be honest. So anyway, if you've bared with us this long, we really want to thank you.
So please, please, please like, subscribe, comment, and share so that YouTube's algorithm will pick us up so that we can expand beyond Mopars in the future. We look forward to seeing you in our next video.